So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our inaugural PRCA AR Group webinar. The topic for today is proving the value of AR in a Marcomms world. I'm here with my colleague Claire Williamson, who I'll hand over to introduce herself in a moment. But for now, let me just go through the agenda for today. Before I do so, actually, if you have any questions, please make sure that you pop them in the Q&A box or in the participant chat box, and we'll be reviewing those throughout today. We'll also have a separate section at the end for specific Q&A where we'll try and fit in all your questions. So please do, we'd like to, this is an open forum, it's a discussive forum, and as it's our inaugural one, we're really keen to hear your comments and feedback. So without further ado, let me just go on to the next slide. So for the agenda, after our introductions, we're also going to give just a brief overview of what the PRCA sectoral group is all about. We'll then go through what we hope you'll learn from this session, and also a State of the Nation address. This is very much looking at what's been happening at the moment, especially bearing in mind the last 9 months of what we've all been going through, both as marketers, as well as PR, as well as analyst professionals. And then we'll be looking at goal setting, aligning those goals to business goals, then following on to programs and aligning those programs with outcomes. We're also going to be talking about impact-driven AR, and then finally key takeaways and summaries. And we'll also be, after the Q&A, we'll also be talking about our future activity and also how to get in touch and participate as part of the PRCA AR group. There is so much to cover within this subject matter, so we're going to keep this at quite a top level. However, if there are any insights or things or burning issues that you think that we should be talking about in the future, then do let us know. And like I said, we'll be talking about that content and how to get in touch with us later on. So without further ado, your presenters and co-chairs of the PRCA AR group, Claire, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, excellent. Hi, thanks Nadia. Hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Claire Williamson. I am the Managing Director of Resonance. My AR background is that I headed up the EMEA AR programme for NEC, working directly with the headquartered AR programme in Japan. I've also run AR campaigns for the likes of Exasol, Interroute, Fujitsu, so a lot of big names in there. I take a kind of broader view of the market. I'm now also responsible for inbound communications for clients, as well as PR communications. And AR is one stream of the channels that I manage at Resonance. Back to you, Nadia.
Thank you, Claire. So I work with Claire, and I'm the Director of Influencer Relations at Resonance. Similar to Claire, I also have more than 20 years experience in marketing communications, PR and analyst relations. My analyst relations background includes all sorts of blue chip organizations, both on the agency side as well as in-house, really enabling them to fine-tune their go-to-market strategy, as well as taking new products to market, as well as marketing themselves after acquisition or mergers, etc. I think the key part of any AR strategy is making sure that it's in alignment with the wider schema of your business and communications functions. And hopefully you'll learn a bit about that today and how you can get started too. So today's without further ado, the purpose of the PRCA Analyst Relations Group. So the purpose is very much looking at, this is a brand new group. We've only been established a couple of months. I should kick off with that. It's open to all PRC member organisations with an interest in analyst relations. And it really is, we really see analyst relations as a strategic part of corporate communications, marketing, sales, and beyond executive activity as well. We really see it as bridging the gap between industry analysts, the business, marketing departments, as well as right through to the C-suite as well. And throughout the year, we intend to host a selection of different events aimed at all types of attendees, whether you're just starting out as analyst relations or you're a senior member within your corporate communications or analyst relations team. And will be through different types such as workshops, panel discussions, as well as speaker-based forums as well. Our aim is really to put a spotlight on the importance of AR right across business functions, really to provide insights, learnings, and really be an open discussion between members, because we hope that we support AR professionals and those with an interest in communications to really demonstrate the value that analyst relations can bring both to the business through sharing best practice, as well as strategic approaches, as well as practical experiences too.
Yeah, I think it's also worth flagging here just quickly that, you know, the PRCA obviously is a governing body that's seeking to raise the professional and ethical standards across the industry, and you know is seeking to address the really important issues that as an industry we're facing today, and this group we're hoping will ladder up to that objective. So not only will this be a group about, you know, best practice and how you measure and how you execute and how you create goals, etc., we want to talk about the big topics on the table. Diversity and inclusion is something the PRCA is really pushing at the moment. It's an incredibly important topic. So that's another example of, you know, outside of best practice, we want this group to be a forum for sharing insights on those types of issues that you're facing on a daily basis. So today's session, let's start with the landscape. So we're here to talk about today, the whole session is about AR in this Marcomms world. Obviously the PRCA supports cross communication functions. In the world that we're playing in, and I certainly noticed this when I was at NEC, although that was quite a while ago, you know, the AR function, certainly in that organisation, was quite siloed at that point. I sat underneath strategy. I didn't talk to marketing until I kind of initiated that conversation, and sales. You know, it was all down to me to kind of pull those people together. And I think that you know, as with everything in marketing, there are silos that we need to break down, and AR is one of those silos that needs to be pulled into the bigger picture, because as part of the bigger picture we can prove so much more value, we can deliver so much more to the business, we can deliver so much more to sales, to marketing, etc. And all of these functions need to be feeding one another. You know, the AR function is strategic. The insights that you get from your AR program need to be delivered to marketing. They need to be delivered to sales. They also need to be helping the business leaders make decisions on their kind of strategic vision for the future. So that's really what today's session is about. It's about where does AR sit, and every department is different, every organization is different, but where you sit should determine your objectives. It should also determine how you measure your value, and that's what we're going to chat about a little bit more. So going back to where the state of the nation, as Nadia puts it, we live in a world that has changed very rapidly due to digital. You know, going back to impact and business growth, the way that CIOs, the way that IT decision makers buy has changed massively over the last decade. And this means that we need to rethink how we're supporting that process, how AR is supporting that process, that sales process. What do I mean by that? So in years gone by, the sales teams owned the relationships with prospects. You know, they were the key holders to those relationships. They picked up the phone, they had those conversations. They were essentially the gateway to knowledge and advice. However, today, with the advent of the internet and being able to get information from, you know, wherever you want, only 60% of the sales process is over before a sales rep gets involved. Now that's turned things on its head. Buyers can go to Google and they can get all the information they want. There's more information out there than they need. And in response to that, brands have created more and more content to try and be heard, which has made it even more difficult. It's this perpetual cycle of, you know, of chaos, as Gartner puts it. So Gartner calls this the era of the chaotic buyer. Now, chaos is not a nice term. Chaotic is not something that I would necessarily want to be called. So we like to call it the informed buyer. And, you know, to cut through all of this noise, buyers are looking for a trusted advisor to help guide them to which bits of content are relevant, which vendor is, you know, relevant for their particular problem, etc. And that's where analyst relations really can come into play as part of this Marcomms world. So next slide, Nadia. I apologise if people can hear screaming in the background. It's that time of day, unfortunately, for me with 3 children. This is also from Gartner. So they asked, you know, how are IT decision makers making their decisions? And as you can see, analysts, influencers, and independent third parties are an incredibly important part of the evaluation criteria. I mean, this speaks for itself. We also did research. We wanted to track how the pandemic had impacted buying decisions. And 6 weeks ago, we ran research in May, and then 6 weeks ago, we did the same research, and the same rings true. Analyst advice sits within the top 3 every single survey you look at. So analyst relations is a really important, valuable part of business growth, and we need to, you know, be positioning it that way. Nadia, next slide. So again, going back to that Marcomms, you know, Marcomms view of the world, we follow the PESO model. I'm sure everybody here is very familiar with this, but you know, analyst relations really does sit at the center of all of these things, and you can use it across paid, you can use it across earned, you know, with analyst quotes, etc. You can use it on your website if you've got a you know, a great ranking report to drive downloads, to drive traffic, and also social media is a really important function. And I think when you're approaching analyst programs, all of these moving parts need to be considered. And not only does the you know, does the content the analysts create feed this, but also we need to be feeding back from all of these sections as well. So goal setting. So that was the kind of the state of play. That's where we're sitting today in this digital world, and you know, all these different parts to marketing, AR, to sales, etc. This is, again, I'm sure everybody recognizes this. This is from Forrester, Kevin Lucas. We met with him just before the pandemic and had a good chat to him about all of this stuff. Goal setting is a really important part to measurement. Without knowing what your goals are, how do you measure it? And I think the missing piece for a long time has been that business vernacular. So, you know, really understanding where your business is going, what their goals are from a kind of a strategic perspective, and then leveling down to the AR objectives. And where I think stakeholders, you know, certainly I saw this internally, get confused about the value of AR. And again, I speak to clients now who are trying to explain to their stakeholders, you know, to the C-suite or to even the CMO, what the value of AR is. I think what it misses a lot of the time is speaking in business vernacular. So taking those business goals and not just talking about AR goals, dressing those AR goals up in business speak. And of course, you know, all of this depends on who you're talking to, but you need to be prepared to use that business language. Next slide, please, Nadia.
So with that in mind, very much, as you look at your goals, you then align to your targets, as you would, like Claire was saying, with your marketing communications, that wider schema of plotting. In the same way, like you would with a marketing communications program, you'd where you have a persona-led approach, you would very much do the same when it comes to your analysts. According to Gartner, this is something we actually spoke about with them over the summer, is there are 3 types of analysts that help clients. So aligning the different types, those 3 types of market, technology, and go-to-market. And once you've aligned your goals, it's very much aligning the different analysts to that, right across the board, and tiering them as accordingly. The whole premise here is about having those research-based briefings, those inquiry calls, and really building those insights to make sure that you are able to understand and evaluate the market opportunities, optimize your go-to-market and your routes to market, building your persona with your customers, tweaking those right messages, and making sure that you to have clear blue water between yourself and your competitors, especially in tough marketplaces. And like Claire was citing earlier, you know, this notion that the notion of the chaotic buyer, or as like Claire described how we describe the informed buyer, it's an absolutely an integral part to fine-tuning those messages to the different personas that you're targeting to.
So once you've nailed your objectives, you know who you're talking to, you know who your stakeholders are, you know what floats their boat, you need to make sure that you're measuring appropriately. There is no point in having a goal or an objective if you're not going to be able to measure it. So a lot of AR programs, and a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, you know, when I was at NEC, we certainly looked at this sort of measurement. You know, it's traditional measurement. It's measurement in terms of AR speak. So, you know, how many magic quadrants have you submitted for? What's the number of briefings? What's the number of inquiry calls? What's the, you know, the amount of communication sent? How many touch points have you had with that analyst? How many analyst licenses have you managed to negotiate? Now, that is, you know, these are all really relevant. We're not undermining at all the relevancy of these, you know, of measuring these things, because it builds into a bigger picture. But it cannot stop there. And we're also a member of AMEC, who have built an international framework for measurement, and we very much follow their best practice guidance. And this is certainly under their best practice only considered as activity. And activity, it's not the be all and the end all. So we go further then to outcomes. And outcomes are, you know, positive sentiment, awareness, education, you know, how much does the analyst understand now about your proposition? We also look at the earn and learn insights delivered through analyst interactions. There's any number of kind of outcome-based measurements, but these are just a handful as an example. And I'm going to dig a little bit more into the earn and learn side insights, because I think that's a really interesting part of the outcome based stuff that can really help AR be seen as a strategic investment. So on the earn and learn side, again, you guys are going to be familiar with this. You know, those that have been in the AR industry for a while are going to be familiar with this. This is again another Kevin Lucas number, and this shows where the earn and learn insights come from. Now, what do I mean by earn and learn insights? So earn insights are where you provide an insight on you and they've understood it. Learn is where you get insights back from the analyst on your marketplace that can then feed into your go-to-market. It can be delivered to your executives as market insight. You might be able to get competitor intelligence. You might be able to get you know, customer intelligence, prospect intelligence, which where, again, going back, Nadia mentioned account-based marketing earlier, and we really do see that AR program should, if an organization takes an account-based marketing you know, outreach model, then the AR program should be aligned. We should be mining the analysts for insights into the prospect accounts, those top tier accounts. So that's insights, and I think, you know, it's a really important measure is you know, is how many earn insights you're getting, how many learn insights you're getting. Again, what's the right answer to the ratio depends on the program and your maturity of the program. But this, you know, I think it's a really important part of delivering back to the business. You know, when you're talking to people that like strategy, this is a great way to communicate your outcomes.
And then it goes on to the next level, which is about that impact side. So once we've spoken about that activity, the outcome, and, you know, consideration of your earn and learn model from Forrester, it really is about taking it right throughout the sales cycle and beyond. Now, I'm sure a lot of people recognize this if you're in marketing communications and PR. And how there are normally 5 stages to the sales cycle, from awareness all the way through to buy. But with analyst engagement, we actually see there being, and with that impact-driven AR focus, we see there being a 6th model, a sixth layer, I should say, which is about retention and really advocacy. This is where your customers, once they've bought from you, how do you build them in to being those trusted advocates for you? They're an integral part of the sales cycle in building awareness, building consideration as well from the prospect, as well as raising awareness of what you can do. However, on that retention side, they're an integral part of any magic quadrant or any peak matrix or any Forrester wave, as they are asked to be surveyed, to be part of consideration for NPS, etc., peer insights, and that really differentiates you very much from yourself to becoming that leader in that top right. So with that in mind, how does that actually look in practice? So looking at a magic quadrant or a Forrester wave, once you're in that leader, once you've gained those insights and you're that leader, that visionary, that top right positioning, it's really important to leverage that as much as possible. And it's not just through MQLs or downloads from purchasing the license of that report, which, you know, we all know, or if you don't know yet, can be quite a major investment within your organization. It's about really influencing the individuals that influence right across that buying decision. So sharing it's part of toolkits, using it within tenders, sharing it internally as look at what great company we are, to partners, so that advocacy with them, for that demonstration of maybe new partners that you're trying to attract, into clients as well, you know, making sure not just to thank them, but also to reaffirm as to why they're a customer to you, all the way through to personalized emails, to blogs, as well as on your social media as well. It really is about making sure that you make that maximum impact with the investment that you make too. So that is a lot to go through. You know, I think we've whizzed past through this in quite a major way, and we hope that you've been able to take a lot of that in and learn something new as well. You know, in summary, and we hope with these key takeaways, we really do see analyst relations as an integral part of any effective business and marketing strategy. There are so many voices of influence, as Claire cited earlier, but buyers consider analyst relations as a top source of information. Analyst relations provides the elements to client intimacy that sometimes you may be missing from desk or in-house research. It really gives that third party. And don't forget, your customers speak to analysts as well. And so do your partners. And most importantly, so do your competitors too. Third-party validation is proven as having speeding up the buyer cycle, and impact-driven, tangible, impact-driven AR really provides tangible results to the buying cycle. And it really provides insights to your products and also market to enable success. You know, understanding where you are within your product roadmap and making sure that you're able to, you know, is your product roadmap right? Is there anything that you need to tweak accordingly? And it also helps retain clients and enables analyst advocacy by impacting farming and upselling too. And finally, it aligns your programs to business outcomes rather than just communications and marketing seen as separate entities within your marketing strategy. So thank you so much for listening. And I see we might have a question or two on the line. Is there anybody that would like to ask any questions? Please use either the chat box or the Q&A.
I can just see Lucy has asked if the summary and key takeaways sheet can be shared with us. Yeah, absolutely, Lucy, we'll send that across.
Definitely, we'll send them. Oh, sorry.
And Kiri, I believe this will be shared on the YouTube channel, is that right?
That's correct, yep, and I can send everyone documents after as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any other questions that people want to ask at all?
Okay, so I've got a question then for the group, and please put it in the chat. What are the kind of key topics that you would like to cover as part of this group? If anyone has anything burning that they would like to use this as a forum for.
Everybody's being very polite to us today, Claire. We were expecting a few more, but there is one. Hold it. What are our, okay, so from an anonymous attendee, what are our goals for the AR group and who would you like to take part in it? Good question. Shall I kick off, Claire? And then, yeah, brilliant. So I think we shared those up front with regards to, you know, what our goals are. We're very much looking at, this is a brand new group, a sectoral group to the PRCA, and it's fantastic that the PRCA recognises that as part of its power of communications, as it says in the tagline, that analyst relations is an integral part of that. So with that in mind, we're very mindful of the fact that this is about how analyst relations can actually help with your business as well as your marketing goals. And we see that very much aligning with that, and being able to educate you through a series of blogs, through a series of panel sessions, as well as some other things that we'll be doing, and I'll go on to that in a minute, of our forthcoming activities, that we're able to help you, enable you as AR professionals or as people with an interest within AR, as part of your wider marketing communication schema, as able to do that too.
And I think,
Claire? Good.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, the goal of this group really is to, you know, to build a community around the practice of AR, share best practice. This isn't about Nadia and I talking about it, talking at you. This was the first group session, so it was difficult to, you know, we needed to talk about something. But what we really want to do is, you know, talk to as a group about, you know, what are the pressing issues. As I said, it doesn't even necessarily have to be specific to best practice and how to, you know, how to fulfill your roles. It can be, as you know, about diversity and inclusion and things like that. So it's really over to you. You know, it's your group. What do you want to use this group for, I guess, is the question. So, and we'll share our email addresses and things like that at the end of this, and we'd be delighted to, you know, to have people get in touch and share their thoughts. I think there are a couple of other questions.
Okay, so we've just had one from David Rossiter, who has said, do you think there is any value in the new Gartner AR seat, or should I stick with the Forrester AR Council? Any thoughts? David, please don't think, I'm smiling because actually this was a great debate in another discussion a few weeks ago. I have to say, I think that, you know, for me personally, because I don't think it would be fair for the PRCA AR group to ever advocate, you know, we need to remain objective. I think it's very much, Gartner ARC is still very new, and I think it needs to prove its track record. And I think that Forrester has done a really good job with that over the last few years, and no wonder Gartner has now got this new seat. I am yet to see as much from Gartner AR in comparison to Forrester. I think it's because we've been working, you know, we as a team, I think in the wider schema of this, with Forrester for so much longer. You know, we name checked Kevin Lucas a few times. I certainly have been trained by him a couple of times myself, but I think, you know, I think time will tell. I think it very much goes back to, what are your goals for you, for your clients, if you're on the agency side? What are those outcomes that they're wanting to do in comparison to you as an in-house person? What works best for what your company has for that short, medium and long-term goals as part of analyst relations? That would be my opinion. Claire, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
No, I'm just wondering if Kiri, David, do you want to add to that? Kiri can give you the power of voice if yes. No, okay, fair enough.
Does David want to answer the
No, he said no.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So I've got so many boxes open on my screen.
Any more questions?
We do have one question about the purpose of this group. So just to remind everybody, this is very much for people at all levels of AR. The importance of it here is, you know, this was us just setting out our bar stool. And I think that, and I think it's very important that people recognize that it's for all areas, for all levels of people in AR. This is, after all, the PRCA sectoral group, so it's very much within the wider schema. People who are just starting out in AR, or people who are now looking at AR being part of that wider schema within marketing communications and business strategy, as well as people who are senior AR people wanting to look at fresh new insights, etc. I hope that answers your question.
I think, is there another one? How do you overcome the challenges that agencies might not have full access to Gartner, Forrester, IDC reports and inquiries?
Oh,
Nadia, do you want to take that one? Yeah, you take that one.
Okay.
It's a good
So this
there's will, where there's a will, there's a way.
Excellent. So I think it very much depends, again, on the type of clients that you have, what their business outcomes are, what they want to do. And I think that's really important. Once you've built those relationships with these analyst firms, and they're more happy than not to share content with you, and I think that's a secret. I think that's a secret formula. And then enabling, particularly with specific clients, then them actually owning seats, and that usually bridges the gap between agencies and the in-house teams as well. And that usually sorts the problem, actually, more often than not. Oh, Lucy, I was about to ask you, if you wanted to say about how to define analyst relations. I would say that analyst relations, some people call them industry analyst relations. It's very much, one could say it's very much within the tech sector, but I think now with the convergence of lots of different industries, it certainly is a far wider schema than when I started out in the early noughties in analyst relations. And I think more so than not, it is about getting third-party validation from key analyst houses, whether that be from an industry perspective, a go-to-market perspective, as well as from an industry vertically within IT. And I think that more so than not, like we said previously, analyst relations really is a fundamental part of marketing, product management, as well as business strategies going forward for a lot of companies that want to have success. I hope that helps as well, Lucy. And so do you see it mainly within the tech industry? We're certainly specializing within the tech industry. Industry analysts are very much in that way. However, they do also work across verticals as well. So it very much depends on the different schemas. There are different analysts for consumer areas as well within FMCG, as well as wider sphere as well. And they go right across the different industries as well. And they're more from the consultancy side of analyst relations.
So just going back to, it was an anonymous attendee that asked about who this is aimed at. The presentation's aimed at people who don't really know about AR. It would be good, whoever that person was, to come forward and give ideas on what they would like to see from this, and if they would like to be involved in guiding any of the discussion, etc. Like I said, this is a community play. It's not about us lecturing. It's not about us telling people with PhDs on this sort of subject, you know, what's what, but it really is a community driven thing. So it is for all levels. But if you're up for being involved, then please do come forward.
Excellent. So with that in mind, shall I go on to the next slide, which is our forthcoming, actually, before I do, let me just check that there are no more questions. Just want to check the chat group. Brilliant. Okay. So with that in mind, our forthcoming activity, we're actually going to be sharing an ebook in Q1 of 2021, and we'll share with all the participants and attendees of this call, and also it'll be jointly with the PRCA as well. So we're really excited about that, under the PRCA AR group. We're also, our next webinar will be next quarter in Q1 2021. We're just finalising dates at the moment. And if you have any burning issues, do let us know, as it can be considered as a topic for a forthcoming session. And also we're looking at different types of events, not just webinars where we're doing all the talking, but also panels as well. And all being well, we will be inviting analysts to come and join us to speak as well for their insights, what they want to hear from customers and from vendors alike. And we'll also continue to publish blogs providing top tips and insights about analyst relations. For those of you that haven't seen our analyst blogs, they are published via the PRCA. They're also on the blogs page, but if you'd like to receive them personally, we can send you the link separately. So do let us know. And with that in mind, if you want to keep in touch with us or be part of the group, these are our LinkedIn details, as well as you can follow us on Twitter too. And if you want to join the PRCA AR group, you can have a look there. That's the, you can have a look. There are all the groups as part of the PRCA, not just the AR one. I certainly am a member of a couple of those, and I know Claire is too, and they provide great interest. I have to say, you know, it's great that it's all joined up and we're all in it together. And if you want to know more about who we are and what we do, then you can also check us out on LinkedIn and on Twitter. But I do hope that you'll be able to join the AR group and get involved with us. And yes, and we do hope, you know, if you want to have any more one-on-one questions after this, once you've cogitated and considered the slides, once Kiri sends them, then do let us know. It'd be great to hear from you guys. We really do encourage an open and honest conversation, irrespective of level. Oh, we have one more question before Kiri jumps in. We are not only taking UK-based members. Sarita, I am pleased to say that we are global. PRCA is global, and so are we. So we encourage members from all over the place. You know, we're here to help all sorts. You know, one thing that we've really noticed, and this is a great question, I'm very passionate about this subject actually, is the fact that we're seeing a lot of, you know, we're based in London, and we're seeing a lot of interest from companies where they're HQ'd in either America or in Asia Pac, and they're looking to come into Europe. And so they're looking for those insights within the European marketplace. Because after all, if you buy local, if your customers buy locally, then you want to speak to the analysts that are local and talking to your local analysts too. In the same way, they're also noticing that UK-based or EMEA-based and companies are looking further afield. And again, we're helping them work through those as well. So, you know, with insights, so we really encourage with the PRCA AR group that we have people from all over the world. So that's a great question, Sarita, and thank you very much for that. We really do appreciate it. The more the merrier. It's really important that we have lots of different voices in the AR group.